Jeff Fort was the second of 10 kids born to John Lee and Annie Fort in Aberdeen, Mississippi. In 1955, Fort and his family relocated to the Woodlawn neighborhood on Chicago's South Side. His early education took place at Hyde Park High School, but he left school after completing the ninth grade. Fort's teenage years was tumultuous. He spent time at the Cook County Temporary Juvenile Detention Center at the Illinois State Training School for Boys in St. Charles. It was during this time at the training school that he met Eugene Bull Hairston, an encounter that would have a significant impact on his life. Around 1959, Fort and Hairston formed the Blackstone Rangers gang at St. Charles Juvenile Detention Center. The Blackstone Rangers originated as a small youth group along the Blackstone Avenue in the Woodlawn area, assembled to defend themselves against the other gangs on the south side. Hairston led the gang with Fort as his second in command. The Rangers frequently clashed with rival gangs, especially the Devil's Disciples. During the early 1960s, Fort earned the nickname Angel for his ability to solve disputes and form alliances between the Rangers and other gangs. By the mid-1960s, Fort had assembled a coalition of 21 gangs with about 5,000 members. He organized this coalition under a governing body called the Main 21, composed of 21 gang leaders or generals. As the Rangers organization grew, it became involved in community and political activism. The gang also received support from a Presbyterian minister, Reverend John Fry, who advised Hairston and Fort on how to manage their organization. In 1967, under Reverend Fry's guidance, Fort obtained a charter from the state of Illinois to form a political organization, Grassroots Independent Voters of Illinois. Fort's organization applied and received a $1 million federal grant from the now defunct Office of Economic Opportunity to fund a program to reach job skills to gang members. The Rangers also received grants and loans from private foundations. Like many gangs, the Blackstone Rangers were not considered outsiders but were largely accepted by Chicago society. Following the 1968 election, President Richard Nixon invited Jeff Fort to attend the 1969 inaugural ball. Fort declined his invitation, sending his top man, Mickey Caldwell, and one of his generals instead. After Hairston was imprisoned in 1966, Fort assumed command of the Rangers. By 1968, he renamed the gang the Almighty Black Peace Stone Nation, or the Black Peace Stones. The Stones engaged in many criminal activities and forced recruitment while also acting to keep order on the south side. The Stones gained control of the vice activities, demanding protection payments from prostitution operations and drug dealers. In 1969, the job program came under investigation amid accusations that the grant money was diverted into criminal activities. Fort was subpoenaed to testify before the state's committee. He introduced himself at the committee hearing and walked out, for which he was convicted of contempt of court in Congress. In 1972, Fort and 2 others was convicted of misusing federal funds, and Fort was sentenced to 5 years in prison. He served 2 years at the USP Leavenworth and was paroled in 1976. During his time in Leavenworth, Fort converted to Islam and assumed the name Prince Malik. After his release from prison in 1976, Fort moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and joined the Morris Science Temple. He then renamed the Black Peace Stones to the El Rukn tribe of the Morris Science Temple, with El Rukn being Arabic for the pillar. In 1978, Fort returned to Chicago. In the coup, he replaced the Stones' 21 generals with 5 close allies and renamed the Black Peace Stone Nation to El Rukn. In 1976, Fort purchased the Oakwood, an old vacant movie theater located on 3947 South Drexel Avenue, as their headquarters, naming it the Fort. Law enforcement speculated that the motive for the conversion was to take advantage of restrictions on law enforcement surveillance over religious organizations. During the 1970s, the gang trafficked in cocaine and heroin. In 1983, Fort was convicted of drug trafficking charges and sentenced to 13 years in prison. He was sent to the Federal Correctional Institution at Bastrop, Texas. Fort continued to lead the El Rukn through daily telephone phone calls from prison, he ordered members to meet with Liberian officials. The gang agreed to commit acts in exchange for $2.5 million. In 1987, Ford was tried and convicted for conspiring with Libya to perform situations on behalf of a foreign government. He was sentenced to 80 years in prison, consecutive to his drug trafficking sentence, and transferred to USP Marion. In 1988, Ford was convicted of ordering the situation of a rival gang leader. He was sentenced to 75 years in prison to be served consecutive. In 2006, Ford was transferred to the newly opened ADX Florence Supermax Prison in Florence, Colorado, where he remains as of 2024. He has been under a no human contact order since his arrival.